Roy S. Johnson, Autherine Lucy Hall renaming should not have been this hard. This is an opinion column. It didn't have to be all this. Didn't have to be this ignoble. Didn't have to be this divisive. Didn't have to be. Not any of this. Read more. UA revisits pairing KKK leader with black student's name on building. Monument for Autherine Lucy Foster is one we can all love. It should have been simple. Rename the building. Rename Graves Hall for the young woman who risked her life to cross its threshold to further her education. Rename it for the woman who dared to attend the University of Alabama in 1956 as the first black person to do so, as the first black girl or boy to attend any white-only public institution or university in our state, when she was, at minimum, not wanted. Yet she dared to step into a classroom to study childhood literature, to obtain a second degree that would augment her undergraduate paper from Miles College, a historically black college. It should have been simple. Rename it for Autherine Lucy Foster, for the proud woman, now in her mid-90s, whose name already adorns a monument just outside the building. Make it hers. It didn't have to be all this, but it was, because it was complicated, at least to some. To the earnest men and women on the committee empowered to rename the building, or not, it was complicated because the men and women on the committee listened to historians and not their hearts. They listened to the learned folk trotted before them, who told them Bibb Graves, once an Alabama governor, was complicated. That in his time, he was considered progressive, forward-thinking, because he ended our convict leasing program, though we were the last state to do so. He was also a member and leader of the Ku Klux Klan, a grand cyclops. As governor, historians will also say, he battled anti-Klan legislation. Complicated? Not so much. The committee initially chose to semi-rename the building, to dub it Lucy Graves Hall, to conflate someone who risked her life to obtain an education with someone who belonged to an organization that would sooner take her life. It chose complicated. It chose wrong. Somehow or another, the honoring of Lucy Foster took to the background. Trustee and Judge John England, Jr. said of the firestorm created by the semi-renaming, "That's not what we wanted." All white men of Graves' era in Alabama were complicated, some more so than others. Some embraced their KKK card as a license to terrorize, even kill. Others carried it more quietly, almost clandestine. They were complicated. Yet in this time, those of that era, those complicated men and women, do not get to deem how they are measured now, how they are qualified by those of us who have their CV by which to judge them. Even those who know, for instance, that George Wallace, another former governor, in the final years of his life, renounced his racist past, will forever see him as the segregationist at the door. At the entrance of Foster Auditorium at Alabama, blocking the way for two black students, James Hood and Vivian Malone. In 1963, 7 years after Autherine Lucy had to be escorted off campus for her protection because she wanted to go to school, we will forever hear Wallace chant, "Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever." He was complicated, yes. Yet at about this time last year, UA trustees, the same bunch, removed George C. Wallace from the red brick building on the campus of the University of Alabama Birmingham that carried his name for 45 years. On Friday, in response to a justifiable chorus of anger, those trustees did what they should have all along. They removed Graves' name from the building that carried it for too long and quickly voted to call it Autherine Lucy Hall. They replaced a name from another time with a name for now and beyond. It didn't have to be all this, and it was certainly not complicated. More columns by Roy S. Johnson. Fear of Black History Month. Blame Governor Ivey. Republican lawmakers. I am an affirmative action baby, so are you. Hey, Republicans, anti-voting rights is anti-American, even anti-Republican. Just go home, Trump, and take your rooting friends with you. Ivey. Others wailing over CRT need to go back to school. Roy S. Johnson is a 2021 Pulitzer Prize finalist for commentary and winner of 2021 Edward R. Murrow Prize for podcasts, Unjustifiable, co-hosted with John Archibald. His column appears in the Birmingham News and AL.com, as well as the Huntsville Times, the Mobile Press Register. Reach him at rjohnson@al.com, follow him at twitter.com/Royce, or on Instagram at Royce.